Hello, this is Bunton with your Visual Functional Maths at entry level. Today we're going to look at units, which is the shortest but probably the most important topic in mathematics. The reason for that is when you're talking about maths and numbers, you cannot ignore meaning, and units add meaning to the information we're providing as mathematicians. So, in this topic, we're going to look at things we measure, and these include lengths, weight, volume, temperature, and changing one unit to another. The point is, all of these descriptions I've given you will only be meaningful if we add units to them. Everything you measure has units. When you measure something, you need to give the units for it to make sense. Unit tells you what type of number you've got. For example, you can't say that a distance is 4. What is your question? For what? You need to know if it's 4 meters or 4 miles. You cannot say my height is 6. 6 what? Because you'll be torn between what? 6 foot? 6 meters? That would be ridiculous, wouldn't it? But still, you know what I mean. For example, this rectangle on the screen is 4 centimeters. If I had just written 4, you wouldn't know what I was talking about. The units of this measurement are centimeters, abbreviated as cm. Oh, by the way, the image you see on the screen is not done to scale, so beware. Let's look at units in length. Length is how long something is, or how tall somebody is. Common units of length are millimeters, which is abbreviated as mm, centimeters, cm, meters, m, or kilometers, km. The units of length, let's see what the relationship is. 1 centimeter is equal to 10 millimeter. 1 meter is equivalent to 100 centimeters, and 1 kilometer is equivalent to 1,000 meters. In case you're wondering, remember I told you earlier on that you need to get your tools of trade. In other words, your books, your tape measures, your calculators, and your writing equipment, your mathematical set. Now, what is 1 millimeter? In case you don't know, if you look at this this tape measure, the height you're seeing from here, or the length you're seeing from here to the base, is 2 centimeters. So one of those is 1 centimeter, and 10 millimeters add up to this 1 centimeter. Likewise, if you're looking at what a meter looks like, I know that because I've experienced people not really knowing what they're talking about. So not everybody, some people not knowing what they're talking about when they're talking about length or weight. Now, if I pull this tape measure up to there, right, if you look at the measurements, you'll see that they can be in inches or centimeters. The top bit are centimeters, and 100 of that is equal to 1 meter. My desk is 1 meter long. It's just exactly the length of this exposed section of the tape measure. The idea is when we're talking about something, we need to have an idea of what we're talking about. We need to be able to visualize it. Okay. You might also see length measured in miles, yards, or feet. Yards is in YD and feet is in FT. You can also see, related to that is inches, which is the smallest, well, measuring in terms of what I've just mentioned. We used to call these units of measure, which is the British system, imperial measure. Okay. For example, these units are sometimes used to give someone's height. 6 feet here, 6 feet, 6'2". Most of you guys know that. Okay? A person who is 5'4" tall is shorter than a person who is 5'9". Distance on road signs in the UK are measured in miles. Weight is how heavy something is. So when we're talking about the units of weights, what are we talking about? One of the smallest units is grams, which is represented in writing with a small g. Then you have kilograms. But what are their relationships? 1,000 grams is equivalent to 1 kilogram, or 1 kilogram is equivalent to 1,000 grams. Whenever you hear kilo, think about 1,000. You might also see weight measured in stones, pounds, ounces. The symbol for stones is ST, for pounds is LB, and then for ounces is OZ. For example, these units are sometimes used to give a person's weight, like someone who weighs 8 stones and 11 pounds is lighter than someone who weighs 9 stones and 5 pounds. Let us look at units of weights, and here is an example. A small chocolate bar has a nutrition label on its wrapper. What is an appropriate unit to display the sugar content? We are all very conscious of our weights now, and we try to control the amount of sugar we take in. A full bag of sugar is usually 1 kilogram, so a small chocolate bar would contain a lot less than 1 kilogram. So grams or G would be an appropriate unit to measure the amount of sugar that would be in a chocolate bar. We also need to look at capacity. When you're talking about capacity, you're talking about a three-dimensional object. Okay? So, capacity is how much something will hold. For example, how much liquid a jug will hold. If we talk about volume, that is how much space a three-dimensional object takes in the world. Not inside, outside, the outside area. How you measure it. You're talking about volume. Common units of capacity are milliliters or ml or liters. 1 liter is equivalent to 1,000 milliliters. You might also see the capacity measured in pints or PT or gallons, GAL. For example, the capacity of a milk bottle is often measured in pints. Let's look at units of capacity. Which of these items is most likely to have a capacity of 1.5 liter? A mug, a kettle, or a bathtub? By the way, the pictures on the screen are not drawn to scale, so they will not help you. You have to think about it. A mug doesn't hold much liquid, usually less than 500 ml. A kettle holds enough liquid to fill a few mugs, usually between 1 liter and 2 liter. A bathtub holds a lot more liquid. usually over 100 liters of liquid. So a kettle is most likely to have a capacity of 1.5 liter to answer the question. Now let's look at some practice questions. These are designed to test your knowledge of units. Now you have different units you're dealing with depending on what you're measuring, and you need to be able to use the right unit of measure. So, question 1, select the units of length. You have meter, mile, milliliter. Question 2, select the units of weight. You have centimeter, gram, and ounce. Question 3, select the unit of capacity. Milliliter, kilometer, gallon. Remember we spoke about capacity and volume just a few minutes ago. Question 4, underline the units in the following sentences. Could be more than one, so look at it carefully. There are 3 items. I'm not going to read it for you. I want you to be able to read and understand what you're doing. I hope you've got your pen. Question 5, how many meters are in a kilometer? Remember I told you kilo means 1,000. How many grams are in a kilogram? So these questions are designed to test your knowledge on basic units. We continue with questions 7, 8, and 9, which are more advanced. So how many milliliters are in a liter? In the following pairs, circle the unit that is bigger. So you have to do some comparison as well. Millimeter or centimeter. Kilometer or meter. Milliliter or liter. And question 9, draw and fill in the table with an appropriate unit for each measurement, the table on the right. Time yourself. Don't give yourself any more than 10 minutes to do these 9 exercises. What have we learned? Remember I told you this is a very short lesson, but it's probably one of the most important because it adds sense to what we are learning in maths. So what have we learned? We measure something to make sense out of it. Units give context to measurement. Context means, what are we talking about? That's the question, okay? Units of measures are applied to length, weight, area, capacity, temperature, and money. If you don't know what those terms of measurements are, or any of them, please Google them. You'll be able to get the meaning of these words, okay? And then look for examples around you. Units of measures include pounds, ounces, or grams and kilograms, that is weights. Inches, feet, yard, or meter and kilometer is about length and distances. Pounds sterling, dollars, and euros are about prices or money value. And then Fahrenheit and centigrade is about temperature when you go to the doctors. You remember 2 years ago during this COVID time, one of the tests we have to do to make sure we are COVID free is to measure our temperature. I bet all of you have thermometers now. So like I said, this is one of the shortest lessons, but the most important. So you will probably spend a lot of time going through it again. I will advise you to do that. At the end of this section 2, I will get together all the practice questions and the answers so that you can go through them again and reinforce your knowledge. Over the next week, I'm going to find out, for those of you who will want to take your functional skills N3 exam, how you can go about doing it if you're not already in an FE college. So that's it for this week. I'll see you next week.